Hey everybody, welcome back to the I Play 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rob Adler. This week, former college baseball player Jackson Ryan joins the show. Jackson has overcome cerebral palsy to pitch in high school for 2 years and 1 season with Division III Mary Hardin Baylor. After graduation, Jackson has transitioned to the front office first as an intern with the Kansas City Royals, and currently he is with the Round Rock Express, which is the AAA affiliate of the Texas Rangers. His grandfather, Nolan Ryan, is the all-time strikeouts leader in Major League Baseball history and is enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Jackson, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob, for having me on. I appreciate it.
And thank you for being here. My first question, which might sound like kind of an obvious one, is how did you develop your love of baseball?
So I grew up in the game of baseball my entire life, really starting in 2000 when my dad and my family bought a club from Jackson, Mississippi and brought it to Round Rock, Texas. And grew up at games at the Round Rock Express from 2000 to about 2013. And we were AA with the Astros, AAA with the Astros, and AAA with the Rangers. And then when my dad got the job in Houston, I was around the Astros organization for a while. So I've been around baseball my entire life and have grown up in a clubhouse and really have lived a kid's dream because I've been able to be around players my entire life.
What's it like growing up and being so young and getting exposed to the clubhouse players and learning just how the game works?
It was awesome. I literally was with Jackie Moore when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. He would let me make out the lineup, and I would do a lineup card that he would use for games, actually, when we had Morgan Ensberg and other people, Jason Lane, like that. And then to be around my grandfather with the Rangers a little bit and to see guys like Kinsler and Young and Hamilton and Cruz and Napoli, Beltre, you go down the line, and to see how they did their work was super cool. And to see us be one strike away was pretty tough and heartbreaking, but to be able to see that with my grandfather was great. But I really got to develop more personal relationships with players in Houston, with my dad being the president of business operations, got to be around AJ Hinch and all the different players, Springer, Altuve, Correa, you name it, and grew up in a clubhouse and got to learn from guys like Keuchel and Brent Strom, people that I'm close with today. So pretty cool and pretty amazing experience. And to see my dad ultimately be a part of a world championship club was pretty awesome.
What was the celebration like when the World Series was clinched?
Oh, it was cool. To see my dad crying on the field, doing that MLB Network interview was awesome. And to be in LA and be with my family was very special. It's about the memories you create with family, and it's about the memories you create with people that you've been around for a long time. So to be able to see my dad and how emotional he was and to be there with my family was very cool.
You were a pitcher like your grandfather. What made you gravitate to that position over other positions?
First off, I have CP, cerebral palsy, and being left-handed, I really was limited to probably first base, right field, and pitching. But we actually started pitching because I used to put my glove underneath my armpit, but that wasn't going to work because I couldn't get full extension. So when I was probably 12 or 13, we had this family that I was playing with. His dad came up to my dad and started talking about Velcro and getting a wristband for me. And so I was going from underneath not getting full extension to actually being able to get full extension. Started practicing doing that. I probably threw about 60 to 65 miles an hour and really needed to be a finesse pitcher that would come out of the bullpen. But my dad was tough on me, and I was able to learn as much as I could from him. But it just gravitated towards it. I've been pitching my entire life and been around pitching with my grandfather and my dad and my uncle. So it's just a natural fit for me.
I remember a guy named Jim Abbott who used to put the glove on one hand and then would put it on the other after throwing a pitch. How hard was that for you to learn how to get the glove from your right hand back onto your left hand?
I had Velcro inside my glove. I had 2 to 3 wristbands on. Basically, it would stick on backwards. So I'd rip my glove off and then be on my left hand. So I don't know how long that process took for me to really get it figured out. But at the end of the day, it just felt like second nature to me. And then I started just wanting to be able to pitch because I had a goal to try to be able to pitch in college. And luckily, the University of Mary Hardin Baylor gave me a chance to walk on, and I was able to face Blackburn College during spring break and threw 1 inning there. And then I faced Texas Lutheran and didn't go so well, gave up 2 hits and 1 run. But I really want to show kids at the end of the day with CP that just because it looks weird or different doesn't mean you can't go out and accomplish your goals and dreams. Because you can go be whatever you want. You want to be a teacher, you want to be an athlete, you want to be whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just go out and work hard and be the best that you can be every day. And that's the end goal that I want to have for people with CP.
What's it like to be able to help out kids who have it and maybe give them some ideas of how to be better and have a more successful life?
Oh, it's great. Ultimately, I want to help out as many kids as I can. And so their parents will reach out to me, or we had one reach out to the Express, and I talk to them and see what I can do to help them, right? And build that relationship and that trust with different people. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to be able to give as much as I can to help families that have CP because they understand what the daily process is. And it's not just the kid himself or herself, it's also the parents and what the parents have to go through. So to be able to relate semi to what the parents have to go through as well is pretty cool.
I have a friend who has CP, and I've seen some of the challenges that he has to go through. What are some of the challenges that you had to learn to get through and deal with as you were growing up and getting older?
I guess for me, I haven't really liked CP. Physical therapy was tough because we'd see a lady in San Antonio when I was living in Austin at the time because she was the best person that I could go see twice a week. And then also, when it gets really cold outside, my body really tightens up, which is hard to explain, but it's like basically muscle tone tightness where it's hard to move. So that's when it gets more tough for me. So having somebody, which I have now in Austin, a guy who just stretches me out, makes me feel better. But I guess the biggest challenge is just having that muscle tone tightness that's really hard to describe to anybody that doesn't have CP, but to the people that do have CP and the families that deal with it, they kind of understand a daily basis and how hard that can be on the body.
You mentioned being stretched out. Could you kind of describe a little bit more what you mean by that?
How do I explain this? Basically, having somebody hold on to my arm, stretch me out that way, or with my leg, they'll try to stretch it as much as possible and get different flexibility options for me. So the guy will come in and tell me different exercises I can do, which therefore will help me with that tightness later on.
What is the biggest daily challenge for you?
Probably just the muscle tone tightness part of it. One day I could be completely loose, and the next day I could be tight as all get out, but making sure that I take care of myself. So probably the toughest part is some days it's a lot tighter than others.
When you have a really tight day, how hard is it to do the job that you need to do professionally?
Probably a little bit, but no excuses, right? It is what it is. We all have challenges. So, you know what? You just got to get through it. You can't worry about that type of stuff.
Do you ever get frustrated with having CP?
Sometimes, maybe not frustrated, the right word, just annoyed, but you can't have that negative frame of mind. If you're always in a poor me mindset, then you're not going to be able to get anything done in life.
Did you ever have an issue where that tightness would prevent you from pitching?
No, I didn't. Pitching wise, I really just needed to learn how to throw a curveball. And my goal was really to come in and face guys that have been maybe 4, 5, 6 hitters because I could move the ball around and try to get a ground ball. If I were to get guys out on their front foot or they threw their bat, then I knew I did my job. But nothing with CP. That's all just about competing and in between the white lines. That's ultimately about getting guys out. And it's a one-on-one challenge, which is the best part about being a pitcher. Your goal is to figure out that hitter's weaknesses. And I would use different things that I've learned from pitching coaches in the big leagues and the minor leagues that I've been around the clubhouse to my advantage when I would face guys on the mound.
Which pitching coaches have given you the best advice?
I got two that I'm pretty close with today. Mike Maddox, who was with the Express, who's the Rangers pitching coach now, was the Rangers pitching coach when my grandfather was the president of baseball operations for the Rangers. And then Brent Strom and I are pretty close. Stromy, who's now with the Diamondbacks, he was with the Astros. Very analytical guy. Two totally different types of personalities and two different types of attack for the game of baseball within pitching, but very interesting. You can always take something from somebody that, you know what, this could work for me, or you know what, just watching the game, you can say, okay, well, this is what he was saying when this situation happened.
With your dad teaching you so much, what were like a workout session, a pitching session, that kind of stuff like for you with him?
I would start to do everything that Tom House would teach me out in California, who is the pitching coach of my grandfather. But I would do all of his stuff with the National Pitching Association and would do that routine starting out. And then after that, it would be, okay, we're going to get in the hitters, say a 3-hole hitter that is big and is a powerful hitter. Okay, we're going to go breaking ball first. Then we're going to go, okay, we need you to hit the outside corner here. Then we're going to throw a change up here, stuff like that. Or we would go, okay, you're going to do 5 fastballs, 5 breaking balls, 5 changeups, and start to really think about how I can get my body to be the best that I can be and the most functional that I can be.
You mentioned earlier on that your dad was a little tough on you. Would you mind expanding on that?
He was just very hardcore on me. I wanted to be the best that I could be, but also he would tell me things that I didn't want to hear when I was growing up. You need to do this, you need to do that. Example would be, okay, you need to work out more. You need to get on the mound more and you need to throw more, or you need to be better at throwing a curveball because your curveball sucks. And I didn't want to hear it, but he was right. And ultimately, we're very competitive within my family, and that's something that helped me be able to play at Mary Hardin Baylor.
You mentioned that you walked on at Mary Hardin Baylor. Did you have any sort of recruiting process before that?
No, I visited 3 schools, Texas Lutheran, Shriner, and UMHB. And Mary Hardin Baylor coach at the time came and saw me play a couple times and walked on there. And I ended up doing well enough in the kind of the fall ball season that I was able to survive and ultimately got to get in twice.
What appealed to you about Mary Hardin Baylor as opposed to the other 2 schools?
Sport management was a big part of it, and also that I was close to home. I consider Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown home because that's where a lot of my family is, even though my parents live in Houston. And also I had sport management. I wanted to be able to get a degree in sport management and be able to just have sport classes and not have to do a business degree. I did a business minor, but having a bachelor of sport management was a big deal to me.
Whether high school or in the summer leagues, who are some of the coaches that really pushed you, that made you a better player?
One is Ben Vigil, summer coach, with Marucci at the time, and then also with Spring Spirit after that. Really, really solid Christian guy as well. But he would challenge me. I'd face different teams in the summer. He'd allow me to come and just pitch, and then I could leave. But he would really try to make me be the best that I could be. So that's one for sure.
In terms of being the best that you could be, what did you feel you had to do to get there?
Really outwork people. To be honest with you, I wasn't the best at school or the best at sports or whatever, but I was lucky enough to have tutors in school and in sports have people that were there to support me, my mom, my dad, and my grandparents as well on both sides. And to have a very competitive family is helpful in that regard. So to be able to push and not have the poor me mindset is something that I'm very thankful for from my family.
When it comes to your grandfather, who's a legend amongst legends in Major League Baseball, what's it like being a family member trying to follow in his footsteps in the same sport?
I think my dad said it best. You can't be Nolan Ryan. You got to go be Jackson Ryan. My dad's got to go be Reid Ryan. You can't try to be Nolan Ryan. So I'm very blessed, to say the least. To have my grandfather be able to play 27 years in the big leagues was pretty special. I can't do what he did. So I got to be the best that I can be. And that's professionally, that's personally, taking care of yourself, the way you look, the way you dress, the way you talk to people. For instance, if we have fans here, I need to make sure that I'm the best dressed at the stadium, and I need to make sure that I'm taking care of our fans and hear what they have to say and go walk around and talk to people and fix problems if I can. And so at the end of the day, if people feel like you care about them, then ultimately they're going to show you that respect. So I got to go be the best Jackson Ryan that I can be, and I can't worry about trying to live up to my grandfather's footsteps, because you're always going to have people that say you're never going to be Nolan Ryan, which, yeah, that's absolutely true. But you know what? You can go be the best that you can be every day, and that's what I need to focus on.
Any sort of pitching tips for you on the mound that your grandfather was able to give you to make you better?
Not really. He just told me to be in the best shape that I could be. My dad was really my pitching coach and who I would trust with everything about pitching, because I think it's hard for guys who have played in the big leagues. I had 2 high school coaches, Lance Berkman, Andy Pettit, to have them transition to say, okay, this is how I did it. Well, it's not going to be the same impact. I may do something completely different than my grandfather does. So really, my dad was the one who helped me to be the best player that I could be, both in high school and in college.
Playing for Berkman and Pettit, what was the differences with playing for both?
Berkman was our manager and Pettit was our pitching coach, but Berkman was really hard on us. After one game, he chewed us out pretty hard. Jackson was ready to go. Nobody else was, blah, blah, blah. And we're playing a team that's way better than us. At the end of the day, we didn't win a state title when I was there in varsity, but life lessons, and he was very tough on us. Pettit was willing to listen to you and was able to communicate pretty good with you. And he would say, hey, this is what I would do, and this is what I would suggest against this guy. And a little easier to talk one-on-one with. But my favorite coach out of the group was Rainer Noble. He was very hardcore, coach at U of H for a while, but he would say, hey, this is what I would do. This is what you suck at and how I would fix it. So he was the one who helped me get a splitter, and that was very helpful for me.
How hard was it to throw the splitter?
Not very. Felt just like my fastball. I didn't really have a good grip for a circle change, so I used that split, and I would use it on righties, especially down away, because if I could get them to throw their bat or to roll over to shortstop or third base, I knew I did my job. I wasn't going to strike out too many people, but I knew that if I didn't walk people and I was able to throw strikes and get guys out on their front foot, then I did my job.
Growing up, and you're not allowed to say anyone with the last name of Ryan, who were some of your idols that you enjoyed watching across the sporting landscape?
So I didn't really have players that I really enjoyed watching. I more had teams. When my grandfather was with the Rangers from 08 to 2012, I was very heavily a Rangers fan. When my dad was with the Astros from 13 to 19, I was a heavy Astro fan. So I really didn't have players to answer your question, but it was more just wherever my family was, because I got to know so many guys, and I was very blessed that way. That's what kind of drew me to the game. And to be able to say, okay, I know this guy, and this guy, that's pretty cool. It's awesome.
What's a favorite story you have with either a Rangers player or an Astros player?
Good question. I don't know if I have favorite stories, but I would be able to talk to them about the game and then say, okay, this is what I was thinking here, or go in depth within them about, okay, this is what's going to happen later on in the game, and things would happen, right? We would have our pitching coach or hitting coach or whatever, and they'd say, hey, we're going to score runs here. And we would go score runs that inning. It's pretty crazy to think about how smart these guys are within the game of baseball, and they can see things ahead, which is always fun. It's a cat and mouse game. So nothing too crazy. What's in the clubhouse remains and stays in the clubhouse, but that is pretty special to say the least.
You mentioned Berkman could be tough. You got any more stories on that?
So we're in Arizona playing in Horizon. A couple guys get caught with alcohol, whatever. And it was myself and one other guy who didn't. And so Berkman's making us stand there, and all these other guys are running sprints in the hotel parking lot. So that's one for you.
When you got to the college level, how much of an adjustment was that for you?
A little bit of adjustment. I had a helmet hat as well, just in case the guys were to hit the ball hard at me towards my head. Because basically the biggest adjustment is that these guys hit the ball harder, right? Even at Division III. So I really needed to make sure that I threw more strikes, which I really didn't do a very great job of. And I wasn't very good at UMHP my 1 year, but I was able to get in and basically try to do what I did in high school. And was lucky enough to be able to get in twice. I faced Blackburn and hit one guy, but gave up no hits and no runs. And then next outing, I faced Texas Lutheran, who was like number 3 or 4 in the nation, I want to say at the time. And they were the SCAC, and we were in the American Southwest Conference, and gave up 2 hits. But it was more of a mental stuff for me, because the practices were kind of 2 separate practices, right? High school, you're having one practice altogether, and in college, you got the pitchers doing one thing, you got your position players and hitters doing another thing. So really, it felt like we weren't really one group. We were kind of 2 separate groups, and that's what made it tough.
When you got to college, how much of an adjustment was it for you, not on the field, but living away from home and setting your own schedule and things like that?
It wasn't too tough for me, because growing up, I pretty much have been of, hey, this is what I need to do and how I need to get it done. But I think it's more, you got to take advantage of the time, and you can waste a bunch of time playing video games or watching TV all day instead of doing what you need to do, which is going to class and doing your homework and making sure you work out and different things like that. Because my freshman year, I didn't have to really worry about working out. But after that, when I stopped playing, you got to put that in. You got to take care of yourself. So it's really time management. And how do you balance all of that stuff? So it was an adjustment for me. And then also, okay, you have one assignment, right? And it's due Friday. You can do it whenever. And you don't have anybody telling you what to do. You don't have your mom telling you, hey, you need to do your homework tonight. Or you don't have your dad saying, hey, you need to go to practice, right? Even when you're not playing and you feel like you should and you're not having a lot of fun playing. So I felt like high school to college was not a huge transition, but it was just, how do I try to be the best that I can be every day and take advantage of the time that I have and don't waste it?
Whether you were in, let's say, elementary school, middle, high, college, what were some of the hurdles that you had to overcome in terms of people looking at you, possibly judging you, and having to change their mindset?
You're not going to change people's mindsets of yourself. Not everybody's going to like you, which is fine. But you just got to go, like I said earlier, be the best that you can be, which is taking care of the little things. If you treat people the right way and you do things the right way, that's what matters the most. I talk to fans and I'm hearing their concerns, or I'm at a Chambers event and trying to listen and ask as many questions as I can. Or last year with the Royals, making sure that I have my reports in and give honest feedback of what I evaluated players with, even though they may not agree with my evaluation of a certain player on a 20 through 80 scale and with the 5 tools and all of that stuff. At least I have to stick up for what I believe. So you got to take care of people and you got to make sure that you're helping them be the best that they can be, but you're not going to be liked by everybody, and that's okay.
Speaking of taking care of people and working with teams, because I'm guessing you have a little bit more of a difficult issue navigating some stadiums than a lot of other people do, how have you been able to use those experiences in trying to make stadiums more accessible for people with physical ailments?
Good question. I really haven't thought about that too much because I really don't even think about that I have DP during the game. I'm just walking around. But I think with people with disabilities, it is making sure you have access to different stadium outlooks and you have rails and you have wider restrooms and stuff like that. I think is important. And also making sure when we have giveaways that they're not standing out in the heat for 4 hours. We had my grandfather's series of bobbleheads this year. You got people lining up at 2 o'clock, but also making sure that they have water and that they are not overheating and stuff like that is important.
Would you mind expanding on your current role with the Round Rock Express?
Baseball ops coordinator. I help with youth league. So what that means is we'll go to their opening ceremonies. We've gone from Kyle all the way up to Temple. So kids have their opening ceremonies. We'll bring Spike out. I'll be there for that. And then they will come and do a parade here at the stadium. And with baseball camps, I help oversee our camps this past year. So kids 6 to 14 and have different stations, and you'd have your half day camps and you have your full day camps. With team travel, I'm the secondary person on that. So I will go to the airport. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 in the morning, pick teams up. Sometimes it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, making sure they get on the bus, making sure they get through security, different things like that. And then just player personnel stuff, go back to the clubhouse, make sure our manager, Doug Davis, is taken care of and our players are all good, make sure their families are taken care of when they come in. So kind of a little bit of everything in that regard.
So when do you sleep?
And off season, to be honest with you, we've had times where we've had 2 week homestands and then we'll have a full day camp. We would be back up here before 7 in the morning, and it is what it is, right? No complaints. You just got to go do it. If you want to work in sports in general to anybody, you're not going to be working 9 to 5, but you also have to have the right mindset and the right mentality that you're not going to get paid much, but that's okay. Because if you're in the game, you're in the game, and you never know who you can run into. And don't ruin any relationships because you never know who's watching you.
What was it like to work for the Royals last year?
It was awesome. Gene Watson gave me the opportunity to work with the Kansas City Royals. So basically, I'd have the state of Texas. He'd say, hey, I need you to do reports on every starting pitcher, and I'm going to need you to do reports on guys who stand out. And what do I mean by reports? You got a 20 through 80 scale, and they did 5s too. So you'd have 5 different outlooks. You'd have hit with power, run, field, and throw, and you'd grade the tools of those players. Then you would grade the tools of the starting pitcher or relievers that would stand out, and you would say, okay, his fastball is a 55, his changeup is a 50, 50 is average, 55 is above average, 60 strong, and then you get the 70 and 80, which is strong, the strong average, and all of that stuff. And so you would just grade the tools and grade the assets. I was able to actually be a part of a trade, the Carlos Santana trade. They actually traded for one of my guys who made it to the big leagues last year. So that was pretty special. So to be able to have Dayton Moore and Gino and all these different guys be able to help me was awesome. And I was able to gain some valuable experience, to say the least.
being able to be in meetings at that high level, what was that like for you just to be a part of it?
Pretty awesome. I was able to set up boards for trade deadlines and able to do different things, and to be able to see different people's perspective and to be able to see the analytical guys say why they like certain players and see the scouts say why they like certain players. And then ultimately it's up to the GM and the president and the assistant GM to make the call on which guys that they want to trade for and which organizations are not valuing the players that they think that the Kansas City Royals can value and have a greater experience with and a greater outlook with. So you got to make sure that you're ultimately trying to win a world championship, because if you don't win in Major League Baseball, nobody cares. If you come in second, nobody cares. So you're trying to get players, you're trying to be able to talk to managers and coaches and front offices and say, okay, what type of personality does he have? How does he treat his family? Stuff like that, because all of that stuff is important. And so there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
How were you able to use that experience last year and take it to your current role in Round Rock?
Basically, to be able to communicate with manager and players and coaches better. They're completely two different things. Minor League Baseball is completely different than Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is more about the players and making sure that you win on the field, right? Because the fan experience is the fan experience. If a Major League club is winning, people are going to come out. Minor League Baseball is more about not what's on the field, but more about what's in the stands, making sure you have the hot dog races, you have the pluckers race, you have the dizzy bat race, you have different theme nights. We have our Dazed and Confused night coming up. You have different giveaways coming out. You have your Yellowstone night, stuff like that to get people to come out to the ballpark. Because most of the time, people don't really care what's going on in the field. They care about having a good time, and the family experience is really positive and making sure that they can take their kids to a safe environment.
For you, what's your favorite promotion?
I think most fans probably like the 4-set giveaway bobblehead we did this year. My grandfather, one with the Mets, one with the Angels, one with Houston, and one with Texas. Those nights were pretty big. I'm sure also fans probably like the chili night and then also the Yellowstone night. So you got to come up with different themes and different opportunities to get people out to the ballpark, because sometimes it's the first time a person's coming out, and you got to make sure that their experience is just as good as the person that's been here 20-something years. So at the end of the day, that's what's valuable to me.
Chilly night in 108-degree weather. That sounds good.
It's been crazy this summer. 105 to 110 feels like almost every day here in Round Rock, to say the least.
In terms of the weather with the extreme heat, how does that affect you and your day-to-day ability to function in general?
Well, the heat feels good for me because my body's relaxed. So not too much with the heat there. I think now it's just making sure that you get enough water in your body and you're making sure you're taking care of yourself and you're getting enough sleep when you can. So that's probably the most important during the season, right? I got to prioritize stuff better and make sure that I'm taking care of myself as well.
Getting back to the management scouting side of things for a second, what's your take on analytics versus the eye test?
So I think you need both. You need analytics because those are going to be able to tell you, okay, this guy hits the ball here 70% of the time. But also you need the eye test. You got to know what's in somebody's heart, because they could have all the talent in the world, but if their heart and their mind is not into it, you don't want that guy in a postseason. So I think you need a combination of both the analytics as well as the eye test and making sure that you see what's going on in the dugout. A perfect example, and this is an obvious one, 2020 with Blake Snell. Now, looking back on it, probably wasn't the best opportunity to take him out of that game against the Dodgers. But you know what? You also got to learn, and you got to be able to see it from both sides and both points of view. So I think you need both sides of it, to be honest with you.
For me, I have to admit, I am not much of an analytics guy. I am much more of an eye test and a character judgment. Do you think analytics has made the game better?
I think in certain regards it has, but also in certain regards it hasn't. For example, I think that there are certain guys that need to be shifted on. You get a power hitter that all he wants to do is hit home runs. I think that's very valuable to have a guy in shallow right field and have your shortstop over to second base part of the bag. But also, I don't think you need to have analytics on the guy who's hitting 185 to 200 that's in the 9-hole, and they're shifting that guy even though he doesn't really put the ball in play. And so I think spin rate is great, but also you have a spin rate of a breaking ball that's X, but that breaking ball gets hit off the wall for a double, then why are we celebrating because the spin rate was a certain amount? So I think in certain regards, analytics has helped, but also in certain regards, it really hasn't. So it's a balance of everything.
Following up on that, Exit velocity right now is a pretty big deal. Well, if 105-mile-an-hour exit velocity and it's a line out to first base, it's still an out.
I think it's just tough, right? Let's use it with certain hitters, okay? If you have a power hitter, exit velocity is probably going to be very important. But if you have a guy that needs to put the ball in play, that can run and go first to third, first to home, second to home on a ground ball to left field, then why is that guy trying to hit for power? He should be trying to hit gap to gap and going up the middle the other way and getting on base and using speed to his advantage. So there's certain places for certain people within a lineup, but I think you got to prioritize what is the main goal from an organization. Hey, I want my leadoff hitter to be a guy like Juan Pierre. Okay. And I want him to get on base and steal bases. Or I want a guy who's going to steal bases and can do that, but also has a bunch of power like George Springer. I want him to be my leadoff hitter. You got to find that philosophy within your organization and what you want and then go from there. But also you got to develop guys and you got to be able to have the right coaches and the right front office and the right personnel and the right people within your organization to make sure ultimately you are winning at the big league level.
I grew up in the heyday of Ricky Henderson, Tim Raines, where guys could steal 100 bases routinely. Do you think the speed game will ever truly make a comeback?
I think it can, but I also think it needs to be taught from an organizational philosophy. And what do I mean by an organizational philosophy? That is something that they value. So if you have a guy that can hit, say, 285 to 300, it gets on base and it's going to have 30 to 35 stolen bases, which you still have guys out there that can possibly do that, then I think that could be valuable. But also you got to figure out what do we want from an organization. And so I think power is great, but also if a guy is striking out 70 to 80% of the time, it's not going to do you any good. So it's all a mix. Also, you want a certain amount of lefties, you want a certain amount of righties within a lineup. I don't think you want to be dominant right-handed or dominant left-handed because then you are seeing the same type of guy. The pitchers are the best of the best, and they're going to be able to figure out your weakness. So you got to find the guys who are mentally locked in, ready to go, that can do what they need to do to fix their weakness and adjust. And from the pitching standpoint too, right? I think you need a dominant 1, 2, and 3. And then you need guys who can make quality outings that give up 3 or 4 runs a game. But you know what? They're going to throw and they're going to get guys out and they're going to compete and they're going to throw strikes and they're not going to walk guys. And then your bullpen, I think you need different philosophies within that. Maybe good to have a guy that's a sidearm guy. It might be good to have a lefty specialist, even though there's 3 batter minimum now. And also you need guys who can come in and throw gas that you don't know where it's going to go. I think you need a little bit of everything. The right mixture, the right culture, the right philosophy within an organization. But that starts at the lowest of the lowest level when these guys get signed, get drafted out of high school, they get drafted out of college. And I think it starts there at the lower levels and it builds all the way up.
So, Tawny, I'm curious from somebody who is in management, do you think we'll see more of players like that who will be pitchers and position players? Maybe not to the level of what Ohtani is doing.
I say no, because it's super hard. It's super hard just to be a pitcher. It's super hard just to be a position player. And to be able to do both, I give him a ton of credit. But I would say no, because that's so hard to do. And you got to stay healthy, right? Because if you were to blow your arm out, then you're not be able to play outfield. So credit to him and what he's doing, but I'm going to say no on that.
Taking your management hat off and putting your fan hat on, what's it like to just watch Ohtani play?
Pretty special to say the least of what he can do and the different aspects of the game that he has. It's sad that he hasn't been able to play in the postseason yet. I imagine he'll probably sign maybe somewhere else next year to get that opportunity to play in the postseason, but that's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent.
What is your ultimate goal in terms of getting to the big league?
My ultimate goal, I want to be a GM someday of an MLB club, but I do not know what steps that could take, right? You never close any doors. You're always willing and open to listen to people and their opportunities. So right now, it's just about being the best that I can be and doing my job the best that I can do. In my office, in my little cubicle, I have a do your job deal that's in there. And that's important to me. If I do my job and I treat people right and ultimately make sure the scouts are taken care of and the managers are taken care of and players and everything, then I know I'm doing my part, right? Because at the end of the day, the Lord has a reason for why I'm here and why I'm not somewhere else. And he needs to show me that reason and he's going to prove that reason to me. So ultimately, my faith is very important to me and the Lord will lead me to the right places at the right opportunity.
Away from the baseball diamond, what else do you like to do?
I enjoy hunting. I like hanging out, watching college football with my dad. We're big TCU fans. I've been going to TCU games forever. My 2 sisters are at A&M, so we'll be at some A&M games. I enjoy basketball, football, hanging out a little bit, but really, I'm mostly into sports and mostly into baseball. So off-season wise, I'll enjoy watching college football and watching college basketball and seeing what TCU athletics can do this year.
With hunting, what do you enjoy about it, and how does that help you, I guess, take your mind off baseball?
I think it's just kind of relaxing. And also, we're very blessed with my grandfather's properties. And to be able just to sit out there and just kind of relax and see God's creation and be able to say, okay, this deer is old enough and he's going to die eventually. Might as well have meat and do what we need to do there. Or, hey, we have too many hogs. We need to take some out and we'll eat the meat there. Or we want to go shoot an alligator and give the meat to the homeless shelter, right? Because we want to be able to make sure they're taken care of. So I think it's just kind of more relaxing and kind of allows you to be with family and also just something that I enjoy doing.
Can't imagine getting close enough to shoot an alligator.
2 years ago with season ticket holders of the Astros, they wanted me to come out to their place and shoot an alligator. And it was 9 foot with half a tail because alligators eat alligators. So it would have been 10 foot. But we gave the meat to the homeless shelter and I kept the skull with the mount. But be able to help people out that way was pretty cool as well.
I'm a pretty big sports guy as well. What do you take from watching other sports that you say, I could apply this to Round Rock and the Texas Rangers organization?
Competitive nature. We were at the Fiesta Bowl, we were at the national championship game to see how competitive those guys are and see the way they go about their business. They take it serious, doing things the right way. If you do the little things right, Rob, then the bigger things are going to take care of themselves. So showing up to practice, that means showing up on time and being ready to go. That means dressing professional. It means taking care of your body and making sure you look the part and taking care of people and you're learning every day. So I think that's what I see in other games or different sporting events that you can take to the profession of being with the Round Rock Express right now.
What was it like to be at the national championship game just as a fan?
It was tough, to say the least. It was not a good game at all to see them lose by 50 something. But you know what? Pretty special to be one of two teams left to see TCU play for a national championship was pretty cool. And to see them beat Michigan the game before in the Fiesta Bowl was pretty awesome to see them beat one of the big blue bloods. So pretty cool to be there with my dad. And I try to experience a lot of things with my dad. We're pretty close, to say the least.
What's a cherished memory you have with your dad?
He's just been there for me wherever. Hunting wise, we'd hunt together because with CP, I have a deal where I have a red little laser dot. I'd have a steady rest, so he'd help me with that. And doing our Nolan Ryan Foundation dinners to see how he interacts, which we have coming up in October, just to be around him. It's pretty special. And have that relationship with my dad in general is awesome.
I imagine at some point you've watched a game with your grandfather. What's it like to watch a game with Nolan Ryan?
Just see him as my grandfather. I mean, we're more in depth into situations within the game, right? So he'll say this is going to happen in this situation, and then it happens. Or he'll be like, why is this guy in? Because he's not as good as this guy. And then he'll give up a 3-run homer. And you're like, okay, well, I need to listen to whatever he says, even if he's not watched a lot of games recently, because he just knows what he's talking about. So what's special and cool is that he'll just call stuff and see stuff before it even happens.
You mentioned the Nolan Ryan Foundation. Would you mind expanding a little bit more about what that foundation is currently doing?
We have different community grants. We have different things that we do within the community to try to help people out, right? We'll give sponsorships out to kids, as well as making sure that we do things in our local community to help people out. And October 15th is our Nolan Ryan Foundation dinner at Kalahari across the street from the ballpark. And then the 16th, we'll have our golf tournament at Cimarron Hills in Georgetown. But ultimately, it's about giving back to the community. Round Rock has given a lot to us, and we want to be able to help out wherever in the state of Texas and make sure that people that are in need are taken care of. Make sure that they feel valued and they feel welcome within any way possible that we can help, whether it's giving out scholarships to kids or helping one of our employees here in Round Rock who is paralyzed from a football incident, helping him get a van a couple years ago, making sure that we take care of people.
You said that you helped a football player who was paralyzed get a van. What was that process like?
So our president of the Round Rock Express, Chris Almendarez, came to my dad and asked if the foundation could help. And Jay Favors, he was paralyzed from a football incident in 2015, and he now works here. Awesome kid, great kid. And he needed a van. His van had gotten totaled. And so My dad was a part of that, as well as everybody else on the board, my grandparents and others, and they were able to bring the money, get him a new van, and he's one of our greeters here at the ballpark. But he just brings a light to everybody. To see him not be negative and to see him always have a positive attitude. You know what? When you're going through something, it's nothing compared to what he's going through. And to see how somebody who can't even walk puts a smile on people's faces, that's what is valuable about the game and valuable about the experience here at Gill Diamond.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I could be here in Round Rock. I could be helping out in San Antonio with the missions down there because we own part of that club. I could be doing something in professional baseball. You know what? If the Lord leads me somewhere else and doesn't want me in sports, then that's fine too. Ultimately, it's the Lord's decision for my life, and I need to follow what he wants me to do. And so who knows where I'll be, but you know what? If I have faith that the Lord's going to put me in the right place, and ultimately that's what matters the most to me.
Jackson, I want to thank you for taking the time to join the I Play 2 podcast today. It was great to hear about your stories in baseball and currently being with Round Rock. I wish you continued success, and hopefully Round Rock gets the title this year. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.